Hello everybody and welcome to the United Stand. This is the Manchester United versus Burnley preview. It's always bloody Burnley in what is a massive game for United. And in the words of Sean Dyche, who is the Burnley manager, I tell you what, we've got Wooden, Barnes and Tarkowski and we're ready to beat Manchester United. So we've got to be ready for this game today because I think this game on Thursday, because I think it will be difficult. And there's lots to talk about. Should we be dropping Rashford? Should we be dropping even Ronaldo, who is one game away from a ban with his yellow cards? Bruno will not play in this game. Should we be dropping other players? Should we even be considering bringing an Anthony Martial back into the fold with Sevilla not able to get him on loan and having their loan bid rejected? Lots and lots to talk about. I've got a lineup on the left. I've got a few things to talk about as well, with Eric Bailly now flying back to be part of the United squad for this Burnley game and then back involved with the AFCON. Loads to get in, but I think we'd all agree Rangnick really should be ringing the changes. But before we get into that, and I do want to talk about, is Rashford the new Lingard? I think this is it's bordering on abuse to say Rashford's the new Lingard, but some people think, some people actually do think it, so we'll get into that as well. And also this argument that we shouldn't have bought Bruno, this argument that Ronaldo was a bad signing. We'll be talking about that as well. So lots to get our teeth into tonight, as well as this Burnley game, which is it's like the Newcastle game, it's a must-win game. But first of all, we are sponsored by Boohoo Man on the show. I'm wearing some of my Boohoo Man clobber. I love this top. It's padded on the midriff, and then you've got the old Dennis Law fingers that you can put in there. If you're thinking about doing a bit of fitness work, Boohoo Man's your place to go, because you can get 40% off with the code United Stand through the link in the video description. At this time of year, it's natural to think about everything that is coming to the end of, and also to coming towards the next 12 months. And every year I promise myself I'm going to be more active and finally use the gym membership. But whether I choose to go or not, Boohoo Man Active will make sure I look the part if I'm in the weight section or just stretching my back in the pub. But as always, as I said, Boohoo Man never will let the United Stand viewers down, and they don't want you to pay full price. And they're giving everyone watching today that massive 40% off, a huge range of clothing on the Boohoo Man website. The link's in the description. All you've got to do is hit that link and use the code United Stand to get that great discount. So if you want to add to your wardrobe today, then hit the link below and let Boohoo Man sort you out for 2022. Links in the video description. Thank you as ever for Boohoo Man. They've been very supportive of the channel all through 2021. We appreciate that. And as I said, a lot of you will be thinking about gym wear, etc. If you are going down the gym, you sweat it out in your first kit. You need 3 or 4 kits. Boohoo Man, 40% off. Get yourself some stuff for the gym, and you'll be sorted. Links in the description. Big shout out to Boohoo Man. Thank you very much for sponsoring the show. From Boohoo Man to Man United. Should have done better there. Look, this is a massive game against Burnley. Sean Dyche has spoken to the press. He has said that we need to be ready for Manchester. We need to be ready to play Manchester United, and we've got Wood. We're ready. And he's not being sexual there. He's actually saying they have got Chris Wood ready up front. So Manchester United, Burnley, it worries me. Manchester United at Old Trafford against Burnley, it worries me. I remember the game before we bought Bruno, we lost. And I actually said Ollie out at that point, and the only reason I changed is because we got Bruno and I thought he would make a big difference. And he did. He did. He made a massive difference, and Man United became relevant under Bruno, and we got top 4 2 years in a row. Bruno will not play in this game, so I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about Bruno. First of all, I want to talk about that team on my left. Now, this is the team that I would pick. It's going to cause people a few problems. Maguire can play, Oscar. He's not suspended. Maybe you're saying he can't play because he's crap, which I understand. The problem you've got is De Gea goes in goal, right? So I've got De Gea in goal. I've actually changed the fullbacks. I think we need a kick up the arse. And I'm not saying Delo was bad. I thought he was actually quite good going forward, although he got rinsed like a bloody dishcloth by Wan-Bissaka. Telles, I just thought, had a very average game. We're Manchester United. We're not Charity FC. I think neither of those two players really justify playing against Burnley when we need more impetus. And Wan-Bissaka and Shaw have sat out the team for 3 weeks now. I think they deserve the chance. We need to rotate anyway. They deserve their chance. And to be honest with you, if they put in a better performance, we do better anyway. So I would play Shaw and Wan-Bissaka. This is not about dropping Delo. This is not about dropping Telles. It's about rotation. It's about kick up the backside. And it's about players knowing that if they put in an average performance, they might lose their place. And we can afford to do that with Shaw and Delo. So I would take both out. I'd love to do it with Harry Maguire. Varane for me plays because he's one of the world's best centre-backs. I think it was just rust against Newcastle. I would drop Harry Maguire, but who am I going to drop him for? Lindelof is not available. Phil Jones is Phil Jones. Eric Bailly has come back. And I would play Eric Bailly because it allows us to play higher up. But I think Maguire will survive. You know, it's always been Phil Jones that's like a cockroach who'd survive a nuclear war. But it feels like Harry Maguire is becoming that. He seems to be able to survive any scenario. He should be dropped. He should be, but I think he will play. In the midfield, I think you've got to bring Matic in. It was a shambolic midfield performance against Newcastle. I mean, Shelvey and Longstaff dominated our midfield. I mean, Norwich dominated our midfield. Norwich, not shit. I mean, absolute rubbish team. Got smashed by Palace today. And yet we couldn't dominate them. That midfield is the biggest problem in that team. And if you don't think it is, you don't understand football. I don't know. And whatever you want to talk about, Rashford, Maguire, even Ronaldo, that midfield is why we fail. And it needs changing. Now, I would go, Fred only played 45 minutes. I think McTominay's probably got a knock on the ankle anyway. Obviously, we can't play Bruno in there because he's suspended. So, for me, it's Matic and Fred. I would play Matic and Fred in there. I would then play Sancho and Donny comes into the team. I'd play Donny where Fred is. I'd go Matic and Donny, but I don't know who would play where Donny is. So, I don't want Lingard to play. I actually want us to make, be creative. Lingard just runs around and plays sideways passes. I wouldn't play Lingard, but so I would play Donny and Sancho because obviously Bruno can't play. And then my front two, I know I've got him as a number 7 there, and he's not his number anymore. But I'd go Cavani and Ronaldo, and that means I would drop Rashford. Unfortunately, it means Greenwood wouldn't play, but I don't really want to see Greenwood playing in the number 10 position, and I think Cavani deserves the start. So for me, it's Cavani and Ronaldo up front, it's Bruno and Sancho behind them, and it's Matic and Fred behind them. Don't know what your thoughts are. Eric will never be picked over Harry. Partial English favouritism, says Ashu. And Zane is here laughing his head off. Of course, we did get quite a good result, which I'm sure Zane's very happy about as well. Spurs drawing today against a 10-men Southampton. So they're still 2 points ahead of us with the same amount of games played. But that 2 points drop by Spurs means that they don't go 4 points ahead of us with the same games played. So we've had a bit of luck there. But I'm not going to celebrate that look. We are playing awful. The Norwich game was abysmal. And the Newcastle game was abysmal. So, and they are they're not only the 2 worst teams in the Premier League, they're 2 of the worst ever teams in the Premier League. We're halfway through the season and they've barely got 10 points. I mean, it's embarrassing that we've played Norwich and Newcastle in quick succession. And for large portions of both games, they were the better team. He's got to sort that midfield out. He's got to drop players. And look, in relation to dropping Rashford and I would drop Maguire. I would play Bailly. I just don't think he'll do it. But I think he has to drop Rashford. He has to. If he doesn't drop Rashford, he's already undermined as a manager. Because we all know what great work Marcus Rashford does off the pitch. But we also know on the pitch he's not been good enough. And I'm a big fan of Rashford. I'm going to talk about him in a few minutes' time in this comparison with Lingard. I'm a massive fan of Rashford. But I'm a massive fan of Martial, and he was abysmal last year. And I had to put my hands up and say, yeah, he doesn't deserve to start. I'm afraid we're in the same position 12 months later with Rashford, where I'm like, I really like Rashford. But if I said he needs to start, I come across as a fanboy. I come across as somebody that's got an agenda, a positive agenda towards Rashford. He needs to be dropped. It's simple. And if he starts the game on Thursday, even if he scores, which he might do, but if he starts that game on Thursday, it sends a very clear and concise message that this football club is not a football club. It's about reputations, and we can't be that if we want to be successful. We will never progress with this rotten British core of Maguire, McTominay and Rashford. If Rangnick can't see this or doesn't have the cajones to drop them, then he shouldn't be United manager anyway, says Julian S. Very respectful towards Cavani to give him 7 along with Ronaldo, says Ashush. And maybe see Alanga, Ahmad or Show Retire in the 10 role. We keep saying Rangnick likes youth. This could be their chance. I mean, Brandon, I'd love to see that. If you said to me, Ahmad's going to play where Van der Beek is on that team and Van der Beek's going to play where Fred is, let's do it. But we've not seen any indication of that. And to be honest with you as well, I don't know what people feel about this. Obviously, a bit of breaking news. I was watching the show this afternoon with Adam, Ricky and Beth, and I really enjoyed what they had to say, even though I don't agree with all of it. Obviously, Martial, Sevilla have put an offer in. If you didn't watch the video this afternoon, Sevilla have put an offer in for Anthony Martial. It's been rejected by Manchester United. Quite rightly, I applaud them on this because it was a loan deal and they weren't even going to pay all his wages. Get on that and swivel. Literally swivel off, because there is Sevilla off. There is absolutely no way we should be letting Martial go, even if a team pays us a couple of million and all of his wages. What if Cavani gets injured? Rashford's out of form. Ronaldo's 36 and Greenwood's 20. So I think Martial's got to stay till the end of the season unless somebody comes in and goes, there's 35 million. And a loan deal, no. So Martial's still here. If Martial hadn't said through his agent and to Rangnick, imagine Martial had said, "I'm, new manager. I'm gonna buckle down. I really want to win my place at United." I'd be sat here tonight saying, "Play Martial." I would be here, playing Martial. The only reason I've not put Martial in is because we know he wants to leave. But what a weird time to want to leave. I mean, and I think most of the problems is a Mourinho and Ollie. I think he's had enough. But for me, Martial at the moment would be a very useful player because he actually can play with his back to goal when he's playing half decent. And I think he'd do a better job than Rashford's doing at the moment. Bench Rashi, Maguire and Fred for Burnley games, says Charlie Griffiths. Interesting there. But as I said, Eric Bailly wasn't involved last night because he was going to be part of the Ivory Coast AFCON preparations. He's now flown back for the Burnley game. That doesn't mean he's going to play. I would drop Maguire for Bailly, but of course, Harry Maguire's a very lucky player. Very lucky. He's very lucky to be captain, and he's very lucky to be in a Man United shirt this season. He's been awful. But he's also very lucky in the sense that, how do you drop him? Lindelof's got COVID, he can't play. Eric Bailly is going to be going to the AFCON after the Burnley game, so even if you played him for one game, which he's very good at coming in for one game and doing well, as we've seen many a time over the last 2 years, and we saw it recently against Chelsea. He's very good at that. I mean, technically, you should play Bailly against Burnley and then play Lindelof against Wolves because he'll be back. But I think Rangnick probably quite rightly will say, but if I play Maguire, I know I can count on him for Wolves and Burnley and beyond that. So you can just see Maguire surviving again, which, I think any other club would be out. And I mean, you look at the options that Pep's got. He's got Laporte on the bench a lot because he plays Diaz and Stones. We just don't have that competition, and we certainly don't seem to want to, what Rangnick needs to do to me, not to me. What Rangnick needs to do for me is, and the headline is, Rangnick must drop players. That's what Thursday night's all about. The last two performances have been terrible. Who has consistently been picked in the last two games? Maguire, Rashford, Scott McTominay, Fred, a few other people as well. Well, Bruno would be one, but Bruno's suspended, so he's not going to play anyway. So he's out of the equation. The two fullbacks, Delo and Tellez. Realistically, the only two players that really came out of the Newcastle game with any credit are Cavani and De Gea. Everybody else, it's open season. Now, you could consider dropping Ronaldo because if he picks up another injury, another yellow card, he'd miss the Wolves game. But we need Ronaldo to play in this game. I don't think it's going to be a very easy game against Burnley, by the way. Burnley are very well organised. They seem to have drawn a lot of games, Burnley, if I remember correctly. Let's have a quick look at Burnley stats this season. They're having a bad season, Burnley. There's no doubt about that. But they're certainly not Newcastle or Norwich. So they've got 11 points. They've only played 15 games. They've played 4 games less than Newcastle and Norwich. 15 games, they've drawn 8. Nobody has drawn as many games as them apart from Southampton. So they've drawn 8 games. They've only won 1 and they've lost 6. Now, interestingly enough, Leicester have lost 10 and have got double the points. Even Arsenal have lost 6 and they're in the top 4. So Burnley have only lost 6 games. They've only conceded 21 compared to 42 for Newcastle and 42 for Norwich. Watford have conceded 35. Leeds have conceded 36. Everton have conceded 29. Brentford 24. Southampton 29. Villa 28. Leicester 33. Crystal Palace 27. They're actually in the top half of the table for goals conceded. So don't be. Burnley are a bit of a false entity, really. They've drawn as many games as most, more than anybody apart from Southampton. They've lost the same amount of games of Arsenal, who are in the top 4, and they've conceded less than more than half of the league. So they're in a false position, and it really should be quite a tight game. Which is why I think if we do win this game 1-0, 2-1, 2-0, something like that. But on the other hand, again, you look at Burnley and you think, are they going to win that midfield battle? And if Newcastle can win the midfield battle and Norwich can win the midfield battle, then Burnley can win the midfield battle. What we need to see is what we saw against Palace, a game that we knew would be difficult, but everybody was just pumped up and hyped. Now that's my only hope, is that last time out at Old Trafford was Rangnick's first game. We need to see that again. And maybe we're going to become a team that's better at home and struggles away. Conversely, that's what it was like under Ollie. It was the other way round. We've got to win this game. Harry was lucky in Greece, but nowadays he's acting like a spoilt teenager, says Ash. And Shaw and Aaron Wan-Bissaka might offer more than Delo and Tellez in this new system, says Charlie Griffiths. I think they deserved their chance. I really like Delo. I like the development of Delo, but I think you've got to give your fullbacks, you've got to rotate anyway. Get a bit of energy into that team. My grandpa really agrees with Ricky on that. We need to play players that are good on the ball. Basic technical ability and work rate is really missing, says Benjamin Isaacson. Well, look, I'm sure Ricky would agree with me that Matic should come in for this game. I also believe that... Sorry, I'm just going to get rid of somebody here. They bore me every stream with the same old Liverpool shit, which I'll never do. Please take out Bissaka and Maguire. Bay is back, says Samuel. And we should play 4-4-2. That way we maximise Donny and Mata. We're not fucking playing Mata. Why would we play Mata, Damien? We're not that desperate. Bloody old man Mata in the midfield walking around. No, we're not that bad. I mean, we've got lots of other options. I'd rather play Ahmad or someone like that if he's about, although Ahmad might have gone off to the AFCON prep anyway if Eric Bailly was doing that. But look, I think we will win this game. I'm not going to do what I did against Norwich and Newcastle and say 4-0. I'm going to say 1-0. I think it will be tight. I think it will be hard to watch. I think Burnley are very well organised under Dyche. I don't think they're capable of beating us, but I certainly think they're capable of frustrating us. And I think we're going to win this 1-0, probably a Ronaldo or a Cavani goal. But I think we'll have to work very, very hard for it. And I think we'll have to work very hard. And I tell you what, I think Wolves will give us a game. I don't know how many injuries Wolves are going to have next week, but I think Wolves will give us a really good game. So we've got to beat Burnley. We're in trouble at the moment. There's a bit of pressure on us. But changes need to happen 100%. 100% we've got to make those changes in that game. And... if he doesn't make changes, then you've got to start questioning Rangnick. And I tweeted it early on. I don't know where, it's almost like United sign Ronaldo, leave the board alone, they know what they're doing. For every good decision, there's 10 bad decisions. And I was watching the game last night, and Jack Lynch says, do you ever think Rashford will be dropped? Well, we're going to talk about Rashford in a moment, because I want to talk about this Lingard comparison. And CC says, Bayern used to be called FC Hollywood because of their high-profile players and underperforming in the league. We are FC Hollywood right now, says CC. Yeah, I mean, somebody was on about this. What would Man United be if they were an F1 racer? And I said Alonso, formerly a really good racer with lots of potential, but a mid-table racer now. And United are struggling. We're miles off where we should be. But going back to what we were talking about there, and Rashford and the situation at Manchester United, I saw Darren Fletcher last night shouting orders, and I was just like, hold on a minute, where have you come from, and why are you here? Like, do this football club never learn? Ole Gunnar Solskjaer got the job as an interim, and they gave him the full-time job. Ex-player passion vibes. Darren Fletcher was at Stoke. He's got no CV. He comes to Manchester United as a technical director. He's on the training ground. He's in the boardroom. He's on the touchline. What is his CV? It's almost like everyone goes, "Aye, Scottish, Scooby-Doo. He could be the next Sir Alex. Let's mould the next Sir Alex." It doesn't work like that. Why are we trying to do it again? It's the same prats in the football club doing the same thing again. We've done this with Ollie and Carrick. Why are we now doing it with Fletcher? Why is Fletcher now part of this Rangnick thing? Next to Rangnick, telling him what to do. This, that and the other. He's got no CV. He's got no right to be there. It terrifies me. Now, he might, I bloody hope, be a brilliant coach. But I'll argue it with anybody. Where's the evidence? And why are we trying it out? This is Manchester United. We should be getting the best we can. We should let Rangnick manage and send Fletcher back to whatever he was doing before. Why is he on the touchline? Why is he coaching the players? Why is he shouting orders out? Where's his CV? It's worse than Ollie. At least Ollie'd managed Mulder and relegated Cardiff. Why is Fletcher there? And it's the same old thing. You think you're turning a page, and this football club is obsessed. It's absolutely obsessed with the past and the link to the old boys. And you know what? I thought we'd moved on, but Fletcher will have bloody Rio and bloody Scholesy and Gary Neville and everyone else in his bloody WhatsApp group again, and it's another link in. Get rid of it. For the love of God, get rid of this link to the past. And if you're gonna go for people from the past, get people with a fucking CV. Darren Fletcher was a reasonably good midfielder for United for a couple of years. He was not Roy Keane. He was not Edwin van der Sar. He's not on that level. So I'm fed up of it, and I don't understand why we're doing it again. It seems to me we've got a diluted Solskjaer situation where we're meant to be turning a page with Rangnick, and yet, here you go, here's somebody who's played for the club 20 years ago. He's one of the lads. He knows the DNA. Get him involved. You've got to keep him involved. And it's like, Fletcher just screams of Carrick to me, another ex-player that we're trying to mould into something. Shut it down. Let him bring his own people in. Why is he involved in the decision making? Why am I reading stuff about Fletcher being involved in the recruitment process of Rangnick? Based on what? A good career for United over a decade ago and a career that finished at Stoke. Like, why is he making decisions on United? Now, I might be way off and people might be saying it's not that deep, but you can understand why I'm worried about it, because we've done this before. And the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again. And United have been the definition of that over 8 years in many areas. Overpaying on bad players. We've seen it with Di Maria right the way through to today. Recruitment, retention of players, overpaying on new contracts, letting people walk out the door. Herrera to Pogba, Pogba to Herrera. The club keeps making the same mistakes, and it worries me about Fletcher. It really does. Hi, Mark. Do you think these players are playing for him knowing he's been gone in 6 months? The Honest Tiger, all I would say is watch the show this morning. My opinion on the players was clear on the show this morning. I don't trust them. They don't deserve my trust or your trust because they've let us down over the last 8 years. And that's not picking on one player or two players. That's just general. The playing staff of United have pretty much let us down for 8 years. They're bottlers. They've got a weak mentality. And are they buying into Rangnick because he's going to be gone in 6 months? Who knows with this set of players? Who knows? But they need to. Do you think these players... we've done that one from the Honest Tiger. And also, the Newcastle game is the game in which Ralph lost trust in some of these players. The horror and frustration on his face from the touchline, says Dan. Well, look, I want to talk about this Rashford thing, but I also just want to talk about Ronaldo here. I've seen a lot of people slating Ronaldo. I'm not talking about Bruno. Bruno's irrelevant. He's not even playing on Thursday. If certain players take their opportunity on Thursday and we win well, Bruno shouldn't start against Wolves because that's what it should be like. Now, any idiot who says that we made a mistake signing Bruno Fernandes, you don't deserve to watch any football club, let alone Manchester United. You're a goddamn fool. Like, how can you say buying Bruno was a mistake? I know United's history. I know it all my life, and I definitely know the history from when Bruno came in. And funnily enough, the game before Bruno came in was Burnley at home, and I said Ali out. I said we're fucking shit. I remember the video. And then we bought Bruno a few days later, and I was like, I believe in this player. I think he'll make a big difference at this club, and he has done. He has done. He's an infuriating player at times. He does try worldy passes a bit too much, but his stats and his figures stand up. They're better than most people in European football. But we're not going to talk about Bruno. I want to talk about Ronaldo. I've seen people today saying Ronaldo was a bad buy. We should never have bought Ronaldo. And I'm like, hold on a minute. If I go through your Twitter timeline, I guarantee you'll have been saying Cavani's wasted in this team. He's playing in a graveyard shift. Martial's wasted in this team. He's playing in a graveyard shift. Just because we bought one of the world's best strikers, we're not allowed to afford the fact that he's playing in a graveyard shift. I can think of, off the top of my head, 3 occasions yesterday. One was a Sancho pass, one was a Rashford pass, and I think the other might have been another Rashford pass, where Ronaldo's made a really good run, and it's a straightforward pass, and they've either played it behind him or knocked it out for a throw-in or something like that. It must be infuriating to be Cristiano Ronaldo, making the runs that you've been making for the last 20 years that you know are the right runs, and you're not getting the ball. How somebody can say that Ronaldo is a bad buy and not have... did you start supporting Manchester United when Ronaldo came here? That's the only reason I can think you would think that, because United have been playing like this for over a year. We don't create chances for our striker. It's a graveyard shift, and I said this last season when people were talking about Erling Haaland. Oh, he's a great striker, he really is. But why would you buy him for Manchester United? He'd have the same problems Cavani's had at times, Martial's had at times, Ronaldo's having now, Greenwood's had at times. We don't get enough chances to our striker. And the reason we don't get enough chances to our striker is because we don't get enough ball to our number 10 or our wide players. And the reason we don't do that is because our midfield is too busy battling their lives to try and win a battle against Norwich and Newcastle. And that is why we don't create chances for Ronaldo, because we don't have a midfield that can get hold of a game and push us up the pitch a lot to create chances for our striker. That is the problem. Ronaldo, to me, you put him in that Man City side, he'd be a golden boot winner. He'd be winning the lot. He'd be winning the Premier League this year. They'd probably win the Champions League. He's that good. But in a United side that can't win a midfield battle against Newcastle, he's going to struggle. Because if you know anything about football, having the best player in the world up front means absolutely nothing when you've got one of the worst midfields in the league. Because he won't get the service. And that's the problem we're having with Ronaldo. Rangnick wanted Carrick to stay. Maybe he wants Fletcher to be involved. No new manager prefers to not have anyone around who doesn't know the club, says Jipak. Well, that's a load of bollocks. That's an absolute load of bollocks, because I could list you an encyclopedia of managers that come in and clear out the dressing room and bring in their own people. Like, it's actually quite unusual to keep people from the past involved. So actually, I would say the opposite to that, Jipak. Bruno uses Manscaped because he has the balls to go for the hard pass instead of the predictable McTominay pass. Even out of form, he makes things happen, says Marcelino. Spot on. Rashford is the next Lingard. Well, I want to talk about this, Julian. Much like McTominay, we don't know what's his best position, and he's turning 25 next year. His undroppable status has nothing to do with actual footballing ability, says Julian. And the Fletcher situation is perfectly United under the Glazers. They refuse to fire him, and they must justify his wages by putting him on the sideline, says Anthony. Well, there's one thing I just want to touch on here. You're joking. You're absolutely joking. So Marcus Rashford's 25 next year. He's just turned 24. There was a comment, actually, last night, I think from Gary Neville. Now, I don't have a lot. I really like Gary Neville. I'd love to have a chat with Gary Neville. He wouldn't dare do it because, obviously, he's quite bitter. But the reality is, I don't agree with a lot of what Gary Neville says about Manchester United recently. But I do really respect his opinion. You know, he's an ex-legend of the club. And I do like to listen to what he said. Unfortunately, I just don't agree with a lot of what he said over the last 12 months. And I don't agree with what he said last night about, you know, Ronaldo and Bruno getting frustrated with players. Almost like, well, I think he almost referenced it as himself. You know, they're experienced players and they're damaging the young players. Rashford's 24. That's not young. McTominay's 25. That's not young. The only young player in that team is Mason Greenwood. And what I saw last night was Ronaldo getting very pissed off with Rashford. I did see that. And you know what? I actually don't agree with Gary on this. I actually think if a player plays a bad pass, they should get a bollocking for it. Because I was tweeting about this earlier, actually, and people were saying, no, I agree with Gary, which is absolutely fine. I love it when an opinion's split, or I don't even mind being in the minority. But the general consensus I got on the opposition opinion to me was that Ronaldo should be there encouraging these players. You know, they're never going to improve if he's making them feel like shit. Well, no, that's everybody's different. You know, some people need an arm around them, some people need a bollocking. But I also thought, this is not a charity. This is Manchester United. You want Ronaldo to go to a player who he probably thinks shouldn't even be starting and go, don't worry about it, try again in a couple of minutes. This is Premier League football trying to play in elite tournaments. Shouting at a player and making them aware that you don't think them good enough. I've never had a problem with that. I've played football a lot throughout my life. I ain't got a problem with somebody having a pop at me and basically pulling a face at me because they think I'm not good enough. Because the way I used to react to that was, I'll show them. You know, it's almost like we've got to be, you know, arms around the world. You know, like, we're Manchester United. Who is anybody to criticise Cristiano Ronaldo's reaction to a fellow player? And also, don't comment on Ronaldo if you don't know what he is. Even at United he was like that in his first reign. He was definitely like it at Real Madrid. He was like it at Juventus. Ronaldo is not happy, let's all sing Heal the World by Michael Jackson. He's not like that. He's driven, he's focused, he's selfish. And I love him for that. He is not that player that needs to be focused on promoting others. I used to watch him play for Real Madrid quite regularly. Gareth Bale would score a worldie and he'd jog over. Sometimes he'd walk over, sometimes he wouldn't even go over. And that might be the winning goal in the last 10 minutes. Ronaldo is the greatest the game's probably ever produced, arguably. And we're now saying he needs to be going and putting his arm around people like Rashford and Sancho and Bruno and McTominay. Bullshit. You'll lose what he's about. It's like giving Rooney the captaincy. The fire went out. Ronaldo has himself up there for so long because of who he is. He's always been a bit like that. He's always been a player that at the end of the game walks off. He did it for Real Madrid, he did it for Juventus, and now we're criticising him because he's walking off at the end of the game. You might not like it, but I think he's almost above criticism. The service he's getting is shit, and you're moaning at him for complaining about it. So basically, when you're in a restaurant and you order chips and a steak and it comes out mooing and the chips are bloody raw, you go, don't worry about it, chef. Let me come in and give you a big hug. The service Ronaldo's getting is crap. He's got every right to complain about it because he's used to the best. And you know what? That club needs it. Where have we been for the last 8 years with this arm round the shoulder? There, it's fine. Nowhere. That we need more Ronaldos in that team. That's what we need. We need more people who, when they're getting a bad pass, is pissed off. We need more of that. Definitely. Mark, you're having a shocker this week. Take a break. Still think we could catch Arsenal, says James R. I don't know what you're on about, James. You're talking out your arse. I think it's a weak mentality, and I think the standards need to be demanded more. What I wonder about is imagine if Ronaldo on the pitch yesterday had gone up to somebody, gave him a bad pass, and went, "That's bloody ridiculous," and started going mad. Would Gary have gone, "That's a disgrace"? Because I would have pulled a clip of Roy Keane doing it to him 25 years ago. Look, check your trophy cabinet, Gary. You go down as one of England's best ever right backs. A lot of that was down to Roy Keane's captaincy, and you used to get bollocks by him quite a lot. I just wonder what the reaction would be if Ronaldo had turned round to one of the United players yesterday and bollocked them. "Oh, you can't do that, you can't do that." Well, we used to do it. We used to do it quite a lot. Those who moan haven't got a clue, Mark. Ronnie doing what Roy would have done back in the day. Exactly, John. And look, maybe the world's different now. People call it snowflake society, whatever. But I just think Ronaldo's above criticism. He's won everything in the game, personally and as a team player. And people are saying that he's got to be there. It doesn't matter that you're totally shit. It doesn't matter. Try again. If at first you don't succeed, try again. No. The fire in that team has gone out, and we actually need to ignite it. We need some proper characters in that team. Look, we talk about Harry Maguire enough. I mean, he's the player who should be doing this. Where is the leadership from him? He's crapping himself about his own performance. He's got no idea about how getting that team going. I agree, Mark. Competitors at top level understands, as Owen. I also saw Rashford sulking after Ronaldo had a go at him. Even I am pissed off with Rashford. Well, look, I remember Harry Maguire shouting at Rashford a few weeks ago, and he told him to F off. Those who moan haven't a clue, Mark. I've done that from John Jordan. Anyway, Rashford's like Martial and many other United players have had zero player development over the last 5 years under Ollie and Jose. Well, I would agree with that, Anthony. Let's just talk about this. I mean, I'm live at 8 o'clock on the on That's Football for a Liverpool-Leicester game, so I can't go on and on tonight. But please smash a like on the video and make sure you subscribe. But look, I do want to talk about this. I said I would talk about this. I've really enjoyed the show tonight, by the way, and I do respect everybody's opinion I don't agree with. This channel has always been about different opinions. So, whatever don't throw your toys out the pram because you disagree with me. This channel's always been about this. It's nothing personal. I just have an opinion, and you have an opinion. And if you disagree with it, jog on. I'll jog on as well if I disagree with you. So I've got no problem if people have a different opinion. I accept the world's different. Some people have very different views on things, but, that's fine. Let's talk about something else that's just going to divide everybody again. So I've got to say, I find this really, really insulting. Benjamin says Cavani should shouted at Telles for bad positioning. Funny how that was not mentioned. A 24-25 United player should be shouted at for missing basic passes. Look, you know what, Benjamin? It's all about different people. What on the watch along yesterday, Jadon Sancho, I lost it. 5 or 6 times he's done that. Simple pass and he's misplaced it. I went mad. I can't apologise for who I am. But I tell you now, who I am in relation to football is a lot to do with people like Roy Keane, Sir Alex Ferguson, because they were like that, touchline and on the pitch. And I think if you're old enough to remember what it was like with Roy Keane as the captain and Sir Alex Ferguson as the manager, you'd agree with what I'm going to say now. If somebody misplaces a pass once, you warn them. If they do it 3 times, you bollock them. And you know what? Sancho should have had a bollocking yesterday. I don't know whether Ronaldo gave him one or what, but he should have got one. That does not mean I think Jadon Sancho's shit. It just means his standards dropped. That's what Man United's all about. You could be Bruno Fernandes, you could be Cristiano Ronaldo, you could be Fred. If you play 4 bad passes in a game, you should be getting bollocked by somebody because your standards are dropping. Even if it's like Harry Maguire going, Bruno, have a word with yourself, man. You're better than this. You know, that is absolutely fine. But it seems to me we're crap, but we're saying, oh, I didn't like that. I didn't like the way Ronaldo looked at Rashford. I did not like that. It was like he thought he was crap. Well, probably he's being truthful. You know, the standards need to be better and there needs to be some leadership on that pitch. Proper leadership. You know, Roy Keane used to bollock people. Gary Neville, Phil Neville, Nicky Butt, Beckham. He'd be on their case. And they were like teenagers at times, early 20s. And we're now saying Ronaldo can't be getting frustrated with a 24-year-old. 24? These lads had won bloody multiple Premier Leagues at 24. That's the problem at United. We think a 24 and 25-year-old is young. They're not young. They should have won things by now. They're young in relation to actually winning things. But look, I'll run out of time if I don't talk about this. Rashford is the new Lingard. I've seen this today. I understand why people are frustrated, but I find this really insulting. Marcus Rashford's a really good talent. It's like what people are doing with Bruno. It's like what some idiots are doing with Ronaldo. It's like they're playing not very well at the moment. I agree with that. I mean, I personally think Ronaldo's here, Bruno's here, and Rashford's here. They're not involved in the same conversation, but they're not where they should be. Rashford's down here at the moment. And I think it's a culmination of things. Rashford has been carrying injuries last year and still scored goals, but was very, very hit and miss. He's had the summer off, he's had the operation, he's come back, and he's worse than he was with the injury. So I understand why people are talking about it. I don't know, which I'm going to surprise you here. I don't really have an opinion. I would like to get some of yours. I don't know why Rashford's performing so badly. I don't know. I don't think it's anything to do with off-field activity. But look, at the end of the day, it's a bit like the only similarity I would say with Lingard is, at one point, Lingard had all the social media, the clothing range, everything off the pitch was world class. When on the pitch, he was average. And I think Rashford's probably similar to that. I mean, what he's done off the pitch is unbelievable. He deserves all the accolades, all the awards, all the respect. Marcus Rashford, the footballer, and what he's done off the pitch doesn't match Marcus Rashford on the pitch at the moment. Like, on the pitch, he's very poor. Off the pitch, he's amazing. Do I think that there's any correlation between the two? No. I don't know what it is with Rashford, but I certainly don't think he's Lingard Mark II. Lingard, for me, at his very best, is James Maddison. Rashford, for me, at his very best, and you're going to laugh, but Rashford at his very best is touching on the door of a Nani or a Valencia, someone like that. And people will say, well, Nani wasn't. Nani was very good. Valencia, when he played on the right wing at one point, was very good. Now, I'd like to say he's a Mane. I'd like to say that, but he's not. Mane's very, very good. But Rashford is a very, very, very good player. And for some reason, he's nowhere near that level at the moment. For a 24-year-old, his final ball is poor. But I think a lot of that's down to development. To me, Marcus Rashford, and I don't know him. I don't know his personality. He needs to work harder than he's ever worked in his whole career. If he's a player who thinks he's made it and he's just going through a bad patch, we're in trouble. If he's a player who acknowledges he's miles from where he should be at 24, then there's hope. And what I mean by that is his passing's poor, his final ball's poor, his decision making is poor. If he works on those 3 things and listens to Rangnick, he can get back to being a really good player for United. But at the moment, it feels like he thinks he's just going through a bad patch and that he's a really good player. But when you analyse his game, he's getting a lot of things wrong. And all he needs to do is accept that and put the work in, which I'm sure he can do. So I haven't given up on Rashford, but I think dropping him is the right thing to do. But comparing him to Lingard, I'm telling you now, I've been watching United for a very long time. Lingard, talent-wise, is about there. Rashford, talent-wise, is about there. So I don't think they're any different. He could go down the path of Lingard and waste it, but I think he's a better player. You know, after a breakup, you look back at the relationship and realise it's toxic. That's how I feel about this team after the former manager left, says Rowan. And he's just not that good, Mark. 0 football IQ and just 1 good penalty in Paris. He's Walcott at best, honestly. Well, look, Julian, I'm not here to tell you you're wrong. I disagree with you. I do think Rashford is a top player. But at the moment, it's like he's lost. He's lost his way. And he needs to find his way back. And the best way to do that is put the hours in on the training ground, put the work in analysing your game. The scary thing is, I don't know whether he's doing that. I suspect he probably will. But of course, I do know there are certain players in that team who don't like criticism and think the criticism is wrong and that they're actually not that bad. That's where Rashford would have a problem if he was like that, because he definitely needs to put work into his game, a lot of work. Rashford is similar to Pogba. Insane talent with no work is useless. Coaching aside, he's just not improving, and that's on him not putting the work in, says Randall. Well, I think he's got to put the work in. And I think, you know, one of the most obvious things to do in football when you question people's form is drop them. Bruno probably needs dropping and won't play against Burnley because he's suspended. Maguire needs dropping. McTominay and Fred need dropping. Some of them can be dropped, some of them can't be dropped. But I think in Rashford's position, we definitely can drop him. Anyway, we can continue the conversation on That's Football, because I'm going to be live on there in a couple of minutes' time. But thanks everybody for watching. Please smash a like on the video. Probably one of the most enjoyable videos I've done in a long time, because we actually got in some really good debate, and that's what I love. I love the debate. I just wish we were having better performances. So take care, everybody. Join me on That's Football. I'm going to be live there in a couple of minutes. Lots to discuss. Going to be watching Liverpool against Leicester. And we can continue the conversation on there. But really, really enjoyed the show tonight. So respect to all of you. Even if we disagreed, that's what I love it. That's what I love. I love the different conversation. That's what it's all about. Passion about something we're passionate about. Big shout out to Boohoo Man as well. Links in the video description. 40% off. Get your fitness clobber, your relaxing clobber. 40% off with the code United Stand. Go and check it out. It's that time of year. And I'll speak to you on That's Football in a few minutes' time. And back at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. Speak to you in a bit.